Okay, I'm gonna give this a bit to see if it starts working, because I always know there's a little bit delay between me and actual YouTube. So let's see, hopefully it is up and working. Shows that it is. Didn't really shill this out anywhere, and the only place I really did was on my Facebook, in case there's any friends or family members who remember my dad and wanted to come and watch. Let's see, I'm going to turn, I think, the volume on my mic down a little bit. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully it's not popping too loud in the audio or whatnot. But yeah, so I didn't really shill this out anywhere because it's not a typical video that I'd put out, and like I said, it's more personal, so I figured anyone who wanted to come and watch would come, and anyone who maybe was a family member or something would be here and maybe say some things in the chat in remembrance as well. And hello, Tony, thank you for coming. Hopefully the volume's not too loud, not too quiet. I hope it's kind of good. It looks like it is through OBS. Kind of an informal setting right now just because I got my roommate home. He's out using the living room where I normally do some of my stuff, so sitting in the bedroom. But I don't know where to start. I have a couple things planned. So like it says, 15 years ago today my dad passed away, and I kind of just wanted to do some things in remembrance of him, or to talk about things that I remember growing up, just random stuff. So that way, like I said, if family members want to watch this later or something, they can watch it and comment on it. So my dad passed of cancer today, 15 years ago, so March 23rd, which was 6 days before his birthday. How old would he have been? 57. I think he would have been 57 years old. So he died young, passed away young, and it was cancer, and he had battled cancer multiple times throughout his life. This last bout, I think they originally gave him like 6 months to live, and he ended up living about 2 years longer than what they had told him. And I think I don't remember too much on it. My sister kind of was more in charge of some of the stuff when it came to it all, and I think it was something like they didn't know where it stemmed or where it started, and so therefore they couldn't like pinpoint where to do some of the treatment because it was in a couple different spots of his body, mostly in his abdomen area. He had bladder cancer before, I want to say twice, but I don't remember because the earlier cancers when I was younger, and I thought he had a tumor too somewhere. But some of it is, I think, he was over in Vietnam, and I'm pretty sure a lot of his cancer had to deal with Agent Orange. I think that's where some of the bladder cancer came in, and he had a spot on his back, a bunch of skin removed, and he claims it was from a spider bite over there, which it very well could have been, but the story behind it always seems to kind of bounce all over the place, and I'm not sure what to believe when it came to that. I think there may have been something else happened that he wasn't leading on, but you know, it very well could have been a poisonous spider bite where they had to remove the skin on a portion of his back. So the last bout went from, you know, different spots in his abdomen. It was, you know, I think it was liver and kidneys, and it eventually made its way into the lungs, and so he had like lung cancer, breast cancer, I think colon cancer, liver cancer, and then the last bit it moved to his bones, which, you know, if it moves to your bones, it pretty much is kind of a done deal. Welcome, Demon Norb. Just kind of like you saw, doing a remembrance of my dad. And so that last, when they told him that it moved to his bones, he was down at the Mayo Clinic here in Minnesota, and the Mayo Clinic is very world renowned for a lot of the work that they do. I mean, when I worked at the MSP airport out here, we had, I mean, like crown princes from the Middle East fly in to try to go to the Mayo Clinic for help. But when they told him it moved to his bones, there was really nothing that they could do. So they set up hospice care for him, which my sister basically took charge of that. And the last 2 weeks of his life, he was at my sister's, and she was taking care of him. And obviously it was a really difficult time with all that. And I'll kind of get into more of that a little bit later. But I kind of wanted to maybe talk about like some of the things that I remember doing with him or being out and about. And then some people know that I consider myself a very spiritual person, and the day my dad passed is kind of what I don't want to say solidified it for me, but it just, I know a lot of people think it's, you know, especially with some of the community that I've gotten into recently, is, you know, that everything's science-based, that there's nothing else out there. And I still kind of like to believe that there's something more to this life than just living and dying. And the day that my dad passed only made me feel like maybe that was kind of proof to it. And some events that happened after his passing that kind of made me feel that way too, that I'll discuss a little bit later. But one of the things that I think about with my dad first and foremost is that he was God, there's so many things I think about first and foremost when it comes to my dad. Actually, he was an avid runner, which I hated because he always wanted to make or have me go running too. And I was in cross country my freshman and sophomore year of high school, and I quit my junior year because he ended up being the coach for cross country running. And so we'd go run our 5 to 7 miles a day, whatever, and we'd get home, and then he'd be like, let's go run some more. And I was like, no, I don't want to run more. I ran my 5-7 miles. I'm good. He was a marathon runner, so he was used to doing a lot of running around everywhere. And so he was used to that. I was not. I did not like to run. Welcome, Nickel. And so he kept pushing for it, and I just said no. And eventually I just said, well, okay, I'm done with cross country because I can't, you know, I don't like running for one. I didn't quite hit puberty yet. I was kind of in my growth spurt a little bit my sophomore year, so like my body just was not enjoying the running either. My knees hated it. So that's one of the things I kind of think of, like with my dad first, as a runner. He ran everywhere, ran all the time. He ran multiple marathons. He would do something called the Prairie Rose Games out in North Dakota, which is kind of like North Dakota's version of their own Olympics, where they have all different types of competitors come out and from the state, you know, doing different things. And he frequently did the triathlon, the swim, bike, run. I don't remember which order it goes in. I think it is the swim, bike, run. He broke records in that multiple times for his age group. And he broke multiple state records for his age group, and just records in general for how fast he'd run certain distances and stuff like that. You know, typically it was a 5K that he did. So he was a fast runner. He was not a tall guy either. He was 5'6", so that's why it's kind of weird that I'm 6 foot. Everyone in my family is kind of short. My sister's like 5'6", 5'7". I think my mom is 5'6", and then there's me who's 6 foot. So yeah, he did really well in running, and that was one of his passions. Then the other thing too is he got me involved in bike tours. So that I was a little bit more okay with. It wasn't the running. It still kind of messed with my knee a little bit, but summer of, I think it was 93 and the summer of 94, we did something called Candisk, cycling around North Dakota and Sakakawea country. And for a lot of people who don't know, Lake Sakakawea is out in North Dakota, and Lewis and Clark met up with Sacagawea, and that's where they spent their winter. In fact, my hometown is known for for Fort Mandan, which Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, where they met up and stayed for the winter and stuff like that. So there's a lot of historical stuff out there, and people think North Dakota is just a boring place, but it's actually pretty beautiful if you go out there, especially the Badlands. So the first summer that we did a bike tour focused more around the center part of the state and the northern part. The Peace Gardens are in North Dakota as well, so it's the border between the United States and Canada, and there's a big garden up there that is to commemorate the peace between Canada and the US. And so the Peace Gardens are up there, which again, a lot of people don't know about this stuff, but it's interesting what's all out in North Dakota. So the bike ride went up to that area, into Canada a little bit, and then back down. And so that year was more flat because it took part more so of the central and eastern part of the state. So it wasn't too bad, but it was still, the average was still about 80 miles per day. And when we trained for it, it started off weekends, and weekends we would bike about 60 to 70 miles each day on the weekend. And then eventually, before the tour came up, we started to do about 5 times a week on average 70 miles per day. So before we even did the bike tour, we were already biking 60 to 70 miles per day. And welcome, Alien. Welcome to the stream. And so then the day, the bike tour came, and we did our thing. In fact, I still have 2 t-shirts in my closet I should have brought out, and it shows a little map of where we all went. The shortest day I think was 40 miles. And then they always do a century ride, and so it's a 100-mile day. And the first year that we did it, I couldn't quite do the 100 miles. I was done for. I think about 85 miles in, and I know it was so close. I think it was 105 miles. So there was 20 more miles to go, which would have been about another hour and a half of riding, and I couldn't do it. North Dakota gets pretty damn hot in the summertime. And that's another weird thing I don't think they know. And it can easily get up to 95 plus degrees. It's not very humid because it's it's a dry state, so it's not too bad. And then the storms are nasty. They can get pretty bad. And so that first God, now I'm trying to think, was it that first year? I don't remember. One of the years, early in the morning, there was a storm popped up, and this should have been a precursor to my getting struck by lightning. But we were in the tent, and man, a bolt hit so damn close. I remember being awake just barely before it happened, and there was the brightest damn flash, and not even a split second later, it was just a loud ass crack. And that was terrifying. I remember that. We didn't really run in when we were riding. We really didn't run into too much rain. It rained in the morning before we started biking, and I think it was done once we got on the road. There's a lot of people that do this too. The second year was in the Badlands, and that was a lot tougher ride because the Badlands, obviously, as it sounds, are bad. It is a lot of up and down hill area, and there was 2 century rides, and I did both of them. We got both century rides in. One I think was 101 miles, and the other one I think was 110 or 115 miles. The shortest day was like 20 miles, and it was between Williston, no, not Williston, Dickinson, between Dickinson and Medora, and they're pretty close to one another. And so Dickinson's just outside the Badlands, and Medora is in the Badlands. And so we just rode straight in to Medora, and then we took in a big outdoor amphitheater show, which was kind of cool. And then from Medora, we went up to Williston, which Williston's now known for a bunch of the oil fields up there. But that day I always remember, because as we were riding out, we stopped at an scenic overlook area, and there's a little stone wall, and we're sitting on the stone wall to get our photo taken, and all of a sudden you just hear tss, and so we both look back, and there's a rattlesnake coiled up behind the wall. And if they rattle at you, they're warning you, just, hey, be cautious that I'm here. If you don't really provoke them, nothing's really gonna happen. So we had the picture quickly taken, and then we take one more, and we're standing with our bikes. I don't know what happened to the photo I got of us sitting on the wall, but I have the photo of us holding our bikes next to the wall where the rattlesnake was right behind it. Yeah, it was interesting to look back and just see a rattlesnake all coiled up right there. And then we did the rest of our ride, and that was that was another one. The ride from one town to another town was windy. It was good, and we had 20 more miles to go. And like I said, we had less than that. Maybe we had 10 to 15 miles. We averaged about 12, 15 miles per hour. Nothing very fast or anything like that. And so it should have only taken us an hour and a half to get to our destination from where we were, but the winds were so strong and they were headwinds that it took us an additional hour and a half. So it took us 3 hours to do what should have taken us an hour and a half, just because the headwinds were so strong, and it sucked. And it was like we just wanted to be done. And they had like this, they called it the sag wagon. And that would come by and drive up and down the highways and stuff like that. And the sag wagon was, if you were done for the day, if you didn't think you could do any more, you could put your bike on a trailer, and then you could go in, and it was basically a big RV, and you'd sit in the RV, and they'd take you to the destination that you were biking to that day. And also every like 10 miles, they had little stops where you could buy apples and oranges and granola bars and drinks and stuff like that. And then you could also wait for the sag wagon to show up there as well. So if you didn't think you could do it, you could do that. And so I remember when it got windy, the sag wagon was going up and down all the time, asking if people didn't, if they wanted to quit. And a good portion did once the wind going, but we pushed through and finished it. So that's a big thing I always remember too with my dad. Sandbars, going out to sandbars a lot. Which are just basically little sand islands in the middle of a river. We'd go to the Missouri River, and we'd go out on the sandbar, and we'd sit out there all day tanning and fish and whatnot. Then the other thing too is my dad, he was essentially an electrical engineer. He worked at a power plant. Used to be, I don't know if it still is, used to be like one of the cleanest burning coal power plants in the world. And he worked there for 30 years. Had to have been. And so basically if something went down, if something went wrong, they kind of essentially called my dad in to see if he could do something that was a temporary fix to at least keep things going until they could get the correct part. He was so smart, it's insane. Like, I think if he were alive now, I think as far as like with falling into the flat earth debunk community, I think he would thoroughly enjoy it, because he's like me. He loves science and stuff like that, and he can pick things up really well. The one thing that's I love about my family with my mom and my dad is that both of them were very into taking things apart and putting them back together. And if something's broken, take it apart and try to fix it yourself. And there are so many things I've done because of that, my building computers because of having that handiness. And the TV that I'm using right now for my computer in my bedroom here, it went to crap, and it wasn't that old. You could see the lights turn on the back panel, the backlighting, but nothing would come on to the screen. And so I took the TV apart, and I saw that the one of the capacitors was bad, and so I said, well, I'll try to resolder a new one in. Worst case scenario, I have a broken TV, which I already have as it is, and I spent $20 to try to get a capacitor, and then either just have to get a new TV if I don't do it right. So either way, I was gonna have to get a new TV, but just add $20 on for a capacitor, or I spend $20 capacitor, I get it to work, and I save myself a shitload of money because I didn't have to buy a new TV. And sure as shit, this TV's working. It's been working 6 years after I've done the repair, and I thank my dad for that, for teaching me things. If anyone remembers Radio Shack, he used to get kits at Radio Shack for me where it was like these build a circuit thing, and you'd have to connect wires between different things, and one could be like a timer, another one you'd change it and it would turn it into a radio, another one you'd turn it and it would be like a SOS system. It was very unique. I played with it a little bit, but I didn't get into it. I wasn't into his like circuitry as much as he was. So I thank him for taking the time to show me a lot of stuff. Replacing brakes on my car, like it sounds so stupid, but man, he saved me a lot of money by showing me how to change the brakes on a car. And I like, since he showed me that, I'd say I'd probably have saved at least $3,000+ on not having to take my car and to have the brakes replaced somewhere else. And even my friends, I've replaced brakes for my friends quite a bit to save them money. So I thank him for that. God, it used to take me out shooting in the country. He had this really cool like shotgun pistol. I don't think it's a 410. It's similar to a 410. It's very, very close to the same type of shell. And it was just this little double barrel pistol, and you'd put the shells in there, and you move the hammer to whatever side you wanted for with a barrel. So you move the hammer over, shoot it, move the barrel hammer over to the other side and shoot it. And that thing was hella fun. I loved it. And I got it after he passed, but unfortunately I had to pawn it off because of a crappy ex that I had. Welcome Kevin, and welcome Slim, welcome Micro. I don't expect everyone to stick around. Just kind of telling stories for myself right now. I will get into, like I said, the day he passed and what made me have my spiritual connection. I feel like get a little bit stronger. And then I also have something I want to read. It's a little thing I wrote after the day he passed to express my feelings, and that one I'll probably pre-warn people that is more likely to bring some tears to your eyes when I read that. My dad and I didn't exactly have, we were close, but yet we had a very strange relationship. My childhood, we weren't very close. We did things, but I don't know. There's times I feel like maybe I was a little bit of the problem child, because you could probably ask my mom to that. And there's things I didn't do well with her. My parents divorced when I was 4, and we moved out to Minnesota when I was 7, I believe. 7 or 8, because I was in second grade. My dad stayed out in North Dakota, so there's a lot of traveling back and forth. My dad never really said I love you on phone calls until probably when I was starting to get into junior high, or middle school, as we call it out here. My sister and I decided to come up with a plan to start saying I love you at the end of every phone call, because he'd call every week on Sundays, and to start saying I love you to him, and eventually he started saying it back. And so that's kind of how the relationship was for a long time. There's certain situations that happen, with divorced parents, where you hear your dad say something about your mom, or your mom saying stuff about your dad and whatnot. And there was times I was angry at him for certain things. But after 8th grade, when I was getting ready to start high school, I decided that's when I wanted to try living with my dad. And so I left Minnesota, went back to North Dakota, and I didn't hate living with my dad. I hated the town. Washburn is a town of like 3,000 people, so everyone knows everyone, and our graduating class, I think, would have been maybe 35, 40 people. Not a very huge graduating class, and I got picked on a lot. I missed a lot of days of school, and my sophomore year, some of it was I started having stomach issues, and I had an appendix that was like 3 times longer than it should have been. It was scraping the inside of my stomach, and it's weird because I wasn't going to school because of being picked on and stuff like that, and then I happened to have the stomach issues that I could then use it as an excuse to not go to school. So I didn't leave North Dakota because of him. I left because of the town and because of the people. And I think our relationship kind of went a little bit weird after that too, just because I think he thought it was him. And as a teenager, I didn't express enough to him that it wasn't him, that it was the town, it was the people, it was the high school, and I didn't like that there wasn't any diversity and that people were rude and calling me names and slamming me into lockers and stuff like that. When I was with him during the summer sometimes, I can't remember a lot. It was just, we had our arguments, our typical arguments, random things, getting pissy. And there's times where I felt like he was making me do things that I didn't want to do, as far as, like I said, kind of with the running stuff. I didn't like that. He did teach me how to ride motorcycle, and he was huge into that. And I mean, I was riding motorcycle at age 12, zipping around everywhere. I don't remember the size. I think the first one maybe I had was like a 40 or 50cc, was this like little midget bike. Then he got me a 100cc Harley Davidson, and we used to drive that around all the time on the dirt roads, which probably wasn't a good idea to take out on the dirt roads. Because it was like a street dirt bike where the tires weren't like the super knobby kinds. It was the street tires and stuff, and either way, we shouldn't have been driving it around out in the country roads like we were, but I did it all the time. And eventually he bought me a Honda 750cc motorcycle in the fall before I left North Dakota. And so I got to ride it twice. And then when I came out here, obviously he wasn't going to let me have the motorcycle out here. And then it started the college time, so I never really got a chance to learn how to, or to get my license for it or anything like that. And then when he passed away, he made me promise that I wouldn't buy a motorcycle or ride a motorcycle, because he did not will it off to me, and his big thing was he just said it's too much of a risk and too dangerous. And I went against his wishes a few years after he passed, and I bought a motorcycle because gas prices were outrageous, and I owned a Nissan Titan, and I was getting 14 miles per gallon, and I wanted something that was getting 45 miles per gallon. So I bought a motorcycle against his wishes. But I got rid of it about 3 years after because I was almost driven off the road a couple times. What else? I mean, there's so many things I could probably think of when it comes to stories with my dad. We drove out to I got a good story. So that's no problem, Chris. You have a good day. My dad was kind of cheap. He made good money, but he was very cheap. We didn't fly anywhere. We always drove someplace, and we were gonna drive out. We did drive out to California to go visit some cousins out there and my aunt and uncle. And we had this big '76 Chrysler New Yorker, and that ended up being my first car. And it's this beast of a car. I always joked with people you could fit like 4 people in front, like 5-6 people in back, and if you pop the trunk, you could probably fit another 8 people back there. It's a big 440 vehicle, just a boat. And so we take that to go out to California, which is funny that he would drive that car out there but not get airplane tickets because it probably costs just as much in gas. Although that's when gas was like 80 cents a gallon. Anyway, so we're driving, and it was pretty much like a straight shot type thing. We didn't really stop anywhere. The only place we truly stopped was Vegas. Otherwise, we slept in the car. We stop in Vegas, and we get a shitty motel. I mean, you think of movies with Vegas and how they have the bad motels. That's where we stayed. Like, it's real life. We're walking the strip, and I just remember my dad, he grabs a flyer. Now, I'm like 12 at this time. My sister would have been 15, 16. He grabs one of those flyers for like basically a call girl, or a prostitute. And it's he like pulls it, and he shows it to my sister and I, and he's just like and it's like, oh my god. Like, what? It's kind of funny that, like, he felt comfortable enough to be like, hey, look, there's naked girls on these flyers as you walk through Vegas, and he's showing it to his 15, 16-year-old daughter and 12-year-old son. And it's just, it was wild. And so we went into circus, and we watched some of the stuff in there, and we walked different parts of the strip, and every so often he'd grab one of those like prostitute flyers and like laugh about it. Micro, to answer your question, we started from North Dakota, which isn't much further from Minnesota, but yeah, it was basically a 2.5-day drive, with, like I said, sleeping in the car, then only stopping in Vegas. We did get to go see Hoover Dam. That was cool. We weren't there super long. And then we got out to California, and we were spending, I think, like 5 days out there. And out of the 5 days there, I still have never seen the ocean. We never once took a day to the beach or to go see it. We did go to Disneyland for a total of a whopping 3 to 4 hours. We were not at Disneyland very long, so at least we did that. I remember the area in California where we were wasn't the best of places, and I remember going out with my cousin in his car to go to the grocery store, and I don't want to like stereotype, but it was definitely like gangster area. And it was sketchy, and I think I remember hearing something about like gunshots, or hearing gunshots happen while we were there. So that was interesting. And then we drive back, and that we didn't stay anywhere. We just drove. National Lampoon's Vacation, 100%. That's exactly what it was, except they stayed at their cousin's place on the way, didn't they? And also get my car. It's as big as a whale. It's about to set sail. It's about that time era. Hello, Mute, and hello, Mark, and hello, King, people for coming in. So yeah, we're coming back from California, and we we zipped through pretty much all the states, and this time around, we decide to take a little detour from the path that we took. Sorry, I'm laughing too because Noki's sitting right in front of me, and he just keeps sliding off this body pillow, and he's trying to figure out how to recorrect himself on there. On the way back, we decide that, well, he decides that we're going to go through Yellowstone National Park this time because we didn't go through it on the way out there. So we're driving by the Grand Teton Mountains, which were gorgeous. Didn't do any stopping to take photos or to look at them or to hike them or nothing. We get into Yellowstone, and this is the one and only time that I have been to Yellowstone. I should go back. We didn't stop to see Old Faithful, even though it was right there. Like where we entered, it was right off the road of where we were coming in. We did not see Old Faithful. We pretty much didn't stop anywhere in the park, except for one spot. We stopped at like a mud volcano. So we stopped at probably the stinkiest, nastiest part of the park that you could be in. Because the mud volcano is just, like all the mud bubbling up and all the sulfur, and it just stinks. It smells so bad. It looks like boiling poop. And that was the spot where we stopped. And yay. So even with Yellowstone, like I said, my dad was kind of cheap, and he kind of was weird with certain things. So we just kind of zipped through it, stopped at the mud volcano, and continued on our way. And that was our trip to California. It was probably a week and a half, where we did driving and get out to California. Don't get to see the ocean. Get to spend 4 hours at Disney World, and the rest of the time, sitting around listening to gunshots and then driving back and only seeing one spot at Yellowstone. So yeah. It was very, very interesting. My dog's whining. I don't know if Bailey wants to be let in or not. Give me a second here. I'm gonna try to. Like I said, this is very informal. I'm in my bedroom, because my roommate is home, and I did not want him to feel obligated to go to his room. Come on, Bailey. Come on, buddy. Good boy. Yep. Come on. Come here. Yeah, I know, buddy. You're not feeling well. All right. There we got Bailey. I could hear him whining at the door through my headset, so I knew I should probably get him to come in. Yeah, I know, buddy. Relax and you stop. There you go. I know volcanoes aren't real. It didn't have magma. There was no hot magma. It was just boiling mud. So that was like the one trip I remember that we ever did with my dad. We did go down to Kansas City one time for a family reunion, and I don't remember too much of that. I just remember that was the first time I saw a hummingbird, and I was all excited because I saw a hummingbird. But yeah, my dad was pretty cheap. We didn't really do much. Ooh, that was the thing we did actually. Now that I think about it, is there was a place up in Canada called Moose Mountain, and that was a place he did take us to. And Moose Mountain had a bunch of water slides there. And so you go, this was before Canada required, before they required passports and all that. So you could basically just drive, you get to the border thing. They're like, what are you up here for? Oh, we're going to go to Moose Mountain. Cool. Go through. And so we did that, and we went to a drive-in movie theater that was showing, Coming to America. Again, I was probably 10 years old or something. When did Coming to America come out? What year? If someone could tell me what year that came out, then I would know how old I was. Either that or I could just Google it. So again, kind of funny that here my dad is taking us to a movie theater, or a drive-in, I should say, a drive-in, and the movie happens to be Coming to America, where they're, you know, like the first like scenes, it's got like boobs and tits everywhere. My dad was not shy when it came to nudity and sex, as far as like exposing us kids to it. I think for him it's just like it's just a part of life. You guys are going to see it eventually. You might as well see it, you know, with a parent versus like, you know, someone who's sketchy or something like that. So that was kind of funny, and the water park was cool. That's what we did at a hotel, and we would do like a day trip. There was one time I remember, like, he did scare me, because does anyone remember Pound Puppies? Okay, 1988, so I was 8 years old. 8 or 9, probably, depending on how long that movie stayed out, and because it was summertime when we went up there. Does anyone remember Pound Puppies? It's kind of like almost like a Cabbage Patch doll, but it's little stuffed animal dogs, and you know, they usually had sad eyes, and you adopted the dog, and you take it home, and it had a name. Like, my dog was Chocolate, and it was like this big-eared chocolate lab type thing. And I just remember he'd be like, he would tell us like stories about, like, yeah, people try, you know, we gotta stop here because people try to steal, they try to bring in illegal stuff like drugs or other stuff, and he was like, you know, they try to hide it into stuffed animals, so they might try to rip open your dog to see that there's no drugs in there. And he was teasing with us, but as like an 8-9-year-old, I was like freaking out that my Pound Puppy was gonna be cut into by Border Patrol to make sure that there was no drugs in there. So I was like, I was crying. It was so sad. He is laughing his ass off at me. Oh my god, what a dick. Like, seriously, what an asshole to do that to your child, to say that like they might have to cut open your dog. But yeah. Anyways, yeah. What a good thing. The other thing he used to always tell us is like, you know, you stick your arm out the window, it's gonna fly away, it's gonna break off and fly away. That's how he kept us from keeping our arms going out the window. And the other thing with road trips is my dad, he would do that thing where he'd fart, right? And it was pretty sure, like, it always stank. It was always rotten. And so you just be like, "Oh, Dad," and he'd be like, "What? I didn't fart." And we're like, "We didn't say anything about farting. We just said, 'Ugh, Dad.' So you just you just called yourself out. You farted." And that's another thing I'll have to talk about with his passing. That was a bit weird. So yeah, he used to always fart in the car. He used to always joke about how our arms would get ripped off if we stuck him out the window, so we never stuck him out the window, stuff like that. But Sir Pepperidge Farms remembers. Yeah, Pound Puppies. A couple of you guys had it. Cool. So yeah, that was road trip experience with Dad. Was that type of stuff. That was because he lived out in North Dakota, because we lived here in Minnesota. Yes, I know, buddy. In North Dakota, you can get your driver's license at 15. I don't know if they changed it now. You could get your driver's license at 15, and if you had parental permission and stuff written out, you could get your license at 14. So I had my permit. Did I get my permit at 13 or did I get my permit at 14? I don't remember. Either way, I remember driving. It had to have been 15. Because 95 is when I moved out there with him. The summer of 95. So I had to have been 15. That winter, coming back to Minnesota for Christmas, nasty snowstorm. And I'm trying to think now. I got my license at 15, so I must have got it later in 95 or early 96. Because I remember too thinking like, oh, I wonder if I could drive out here in Minnesota during the summer when I have my job, because I'm 15 and they require 60. Anyways, either way, nasty snowstorm. Can't see more than like 30 feet in front of the car, and before it got really bad, it started to snow pretty bad, and my dad goes, "I'm tired. Your turn to drive." And this is like when the storm was starting to get really bad. And I was like, but it's pretty bad out here. He's like, well, you got to learn how to drive in the snow at some point. So he made me drive in a really just whiteout condition snowstorm. Did not, like, so hard to see the road. Can't see more than 30 feet in front of you. Yeah, sorry, Bailey wants to be let out now, so I gotta let him out. So I'm driving in all this and whatnot, and it was about an 8-hour drive between where he lived and where my mom was here in the Twin Cities. So I drove, I think it drove about 4 hours of it. I'm thankful that he did that, because now to this day, like, a lot of my friends prefer me drive when it's winter time or when there's a snowstorm, because it got me to learn how to react properly and all that stuff. So that was kind of cool. Kind of one of the things where it's like, damn, I can't believe you let your kid drive this car in this nasty snowstorm. But then, like I said, thankful. I've tried to read what Tuss said. He goes, I told my cousin that if she put sellotape around an egg, it would hatch and a tiny chicken would grow inside. She tried it but forgot until the egg broke about 4 months. Oh my God, no, that's nasty. I got busted one time with doing something from my dad. I love bacon. I'm a bacon freak. And he left me some money one time when he used to sometimes work overnights, or he'd have to go other places, and there's times where, as a 15, 16-year-old kid, he would leave me for 4 or 5 days easily, and trusted me. I basically cooked the meals when I lived with him. I was the cook, I was the chef, because otherwise it was always microwave stuff. Except for summertime, and then he'd grill. But I usually cooked in. I did my own laundry from like the age 13 on. But he left, and I took some of the money he gave me for food, and I went and bought like 2 packs of like the thickest cut bacon you could get. And he had a skillet type thing. And so I'm cooking on that, and there's grease everywhere, and I didn't know what to do with the grease. What do you do with the grease? And we had this deck outside the place where we lived that was it was kind of low to the ground. It wasn't super high up, rocks underneath it, and it was just I'd say it was probably a deck that was 2.5 feet off the ground. And so I'm cooking outside with it because it's smoky and it was nice outside and whatnot. And so what I was doing with the grease is I was dumping it underneath the deck. And he gets back, which was like 2 days later, and like there's just those little like fruit flies and stuff like everywhere. And he's like, God, why are there so many of these around? Blah blah blah. And like you look under the deck and you could see all the like white, like solidified grease underneath there, and like there's portions of the deck that were slick because the grease like spread out on there. And needless to say, yeah, he was pretty pissed at me. One, that I wasted money on 2 packs of bacon rather than getting other food, and that I dumped the grease in the lava rock that was underneath the little deck thing through the cracks, and so the deck was slick, and then the underneath, and fruit flies everywhere, and because it's not out in the sun, it just stays underneath the deck, just gross. I don't know what I was thinking. he was kind of cool too with certain stuff, like I said, working at the power plant that he was at. I got to go there a couple times. It was actually really cool to go in there. uh Weird thing is, like, this might be why I'm afraid of heights, is there's parts in the power plant which is probably about 30 floors high or more. um there's parts where, like, the floor is like those grates that you walk on, and so you walk on the grate and you look down and you can literally see like 10 floors down, because all the other floors are all these grates too. And so I used to hate walking on all that stuff. um so yeah, that's probably where some of my fear of heights came in. Looking down through all that, and I hated it, but it was a cool place to go. And then they had the cooling towers outside, which was awesome. You could walk into it and it's just this big round tower type thing where they pump the water to it. It goes up to the top, and on the sides the water they literally just have it kind of pool and then fall down the sides to help cool it. So in the wintertime it looks like it's just polluting like crazy, but it's not. It's just water vapor from the warm water from the power plant, and you go in there and you could just see like this huge waterfall type thing around you. It was awesome. But anyways, like, when I was a kid too, remember those little paper helicopters that you could do. You have like a skinnier part on the bottom, and then like a wider squared part of the top, cut it down the center, bend the things, and put a paper clip on the bottom, and you could watch it propeller down. I made a couple of those, and he took it to the power plant and he threw it off like the side of the power plant at one of the high areas. And he said it was kind of cool to watch because it would go down and catch a drift and it'd come back up and it'd go above my head and come down and go back up. And he just kept talking about it. It was kind of funny how it was cool that he did that for me. Like, I didn't get to see it, I wasn't there, but he still did it. And he talked about how it flew, and how it was kind of cool that it would go back up with the thermal and go above his head. And so it's like he did that for me, even though he didn't need to. He could have easily lied to me, and I 100% believe that he did that, because that's the type of person he was. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff from growing up, and obviously there's more, and I don't want to get overly long with all this. It's just kind of the really cool, fun memories. So now comes the part that's going to get a little bit hard, where I'm not going to apologize if I tear up, or if I start to cry or get sad, because it's hard to go through. And I kind of went through with it on a stream one night, and discussing, the last 2 weeks that he was alive, once they told him that it moved to his bones. And so, like I said in the one stream, it was very difficult to have him come to my sister's completely coherent, able to do everything by himself, to watching him needing help to walk out to the living room, and then eventually needing to wear diapers, to him slowly slurring his speech, to him now no longer being able to walk at all, and possibly be carried out or wheelchaired out to the living room to hang out with everyone, to eventually just being bedridden and not speaking, and watching him turn yellow as his liver started to fail. I took leave of absence from work so I could be there for him those last 2 weeks. Like I said, he was at my sister's house. She did most of the care. And so I went there quite a bit throughout the day. There was times that I didn't go, just because it was taxing on the emotions, to be a part of that. So there was, I'd say like once every 4 days, I'd go hang out with friends or something like that. And it got to, to the point where the morphine overtakes and all that. There's a couple things that my dad had wanted, and this is where I say the last day that he was alive kind of renewed my faith in thinking that there's something more out there. And I don't care if people believe in an afterlife or not. I don't care, what your thoughts on it are. I just know for me, like I said, I like to think that there's something more after this world, and I still follow science, and I still will always go by it, but I still feel like there's something more. And that day only renewed that thought process for me, and some things that happened afterwards as well. My uncle from California, the one who we went and drove to go see, that we didn't stay in any hotels except for in Vegas, where my dad showed me the nudie cards. He came up from California to be up here, so he was hanging out. My aunt and uncle, from the middle part of the state, were down visiting, and one of the things my dad wanted is, he said, like, when it came time for him to pass, he wanted to pass alone. He didn't want people to be there, because I think my dad was a very prideful man, and so I think he would rather pass without people seeing him in the state that he was in, or to just be at peace. So that was one of the things he wanted. The other thing too is he had like a favorite psalm from the Bible. I can't remember exactly the number, but it's the one where it says, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil." That basically was his favorite psalm. He was a very devout Catholic man. And this is another reason why I absolutely loved my dad so much, because even though he was a very devout Catholic, he was the hardest one for me to decide to come out to when I came out. And I've told this part before too. When I told him, we were in an argument, and I basically shouted out, well, I'm gay too, so that's another reason why you'll dislike me. And he just saw a lot of potential in me, and so that's why him and I were fighting. And I didn't see it that way as a 21-year-old. I didn't see it that he saw my potential and was getting upset at what he thought was me throwing my life away. And so then I just yelled at him, and I'm gay too, so that probably is going to piss you off more. And all he said to me was, all I care about is your happiness. I just want you to be happy. If you're happy, I'm happy too. I don't care if you're gay. If that makes you happy, then I'm happy. And that changed my outlook toward my dad in a quickness. Just because, like I said, very devout Catholic man, and knowing what the especially the Catholic religion and how they look upon gay people or anyone in the LGBTQ community, and him saying that. And there's other things he kind of said later on that at first I was upset with, like don't tell people, don't be out, don't make it too obvious, like if you're applying for a job and stuff like that. And I'd be like, well, you're telling me not to be myself. And it was like, no, my dad was just so smart that he knew how shitty the world was. He knew how fucked up the world was, that he was saying, protect yourself, because if you say that you're gay, someone may not hire you just because of that, and that's messed up. Like, he loved watching Will and Grace, so I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, he was totally cool with gay people, but he knew how the world was, and so he was just looking out for me and making sure that I was safe. But anyway, so he was a very devout Catholic man, and wanted his last rites read. And for whatever reason, he wanted them read before he passed away. I don't know if it was for his conscience, for his soul, or what. So we tried contacting a church down here in the Twin Cities that my sister and my mom were a part of, a Catholic church, and they told him the situation, said that he's about to pass, he's on his last leg, and he would like his last rites read. They refused. They said that he is not a parishioner at that parish, and therefore they cannot provide the services, which is bullshit, because here he is, a devout Catholic man, and it shouldn't matter if he's a parishioner at that particular church or not. He should still be able to have his last rites read. And luckily, one of my friends which is weird. I don't know why he would have known this. One of my gay friends said, like, contact the archdiocese, blah, blah, blah. So I contact the archdiocese, and I explained to them what was going on. I said, my dad's ready to pass away. And I said, he's from North Dakota. His church is in North Dakota. He has no means of going back to North Dakota. He's going to die here. We have asked the church that my sister and my mother belong to come out and lead his last rites, and they refuse to do so. And the archbishop, or the bishop of the archdiocese out here, whatever, thought that was messed up. So that was really, really, really bad. So they contacted the church, and they sent out the junior priest, which I'm not surprised, because I was talking to the senior priest, or the oldest priest, and so the junior priest is apologizing left and right. So when we were trying to get his last rites read, this went for a couple days. This went, for about 4 or 5 days that we were arguing this between the church and stuff like that. So now we're to the day that my dad passed, and my aunt and uncle from the middle of the state are there. My sister and her husband, my niece and nephew, myself, my mom, my mom's boyfriend, and then my uncle from California. So there's quite a few of us there, and so the priest comes, and he's apologizing left and right, and so we go into the bedroom that he was in, and we get his last rites read, and the priest finishes up, and he apologizes more, and then he leaves. And at that point, my aunt and uncle from the middle of the state say, we've been down here for 3-4 days. We should head back home. Just make sure everything is doing well there. So they leave. Again, this is all the last day of my dad being alive. So he got his rites read, and my aunt and uncle from the middle of the state leave. My uncle from out of state, he goes, maybe we should get out of the house. We should go do something. I saw that there was that casino that's not too far away. Let's go to the casino. And so my mom and her boyfriend say, sure, let's take you there. Let's go to the casino. Let's go have some fun. Let's get away from some of this. So they leave. So now it's just me, my sister and her husband, and my niece and nephew. So the only one who doesn't live there, who's in the house, is me. And sorry. I decided to take some time to sit with my dad. And I just talk with him, and I tell him, like, I know he always worried about me. Because even the last 2 weeks that he was alive, he just kept saying how worried he was for me. So I sat with him, and I just told him that I'll be okay. That I'll be fine, that he doesn't need to worry about me, that he needs to let go. Because he was just dark yellow at this point. And I told him, like, you need to go. You have to. You can't. I'll be fine. I'll be okay. And I had wrote 2 things. I won't read them today. Maybe I'll read them at some point. But I will read one thing that I wrote after he passed. But I wrote some things that I wrote while he was sick, and I read those to him. And then I went into the Bible, and I read him his favorite psalm. And while some of this was going, I took the time to download some Catholic hymns onto an MP3 player. Because again, he was devout Catholic. He loved the Catholic Church and everything. And I just figured some of those songs playing might make him feel a little bit more at ease. So I had those playing, and then after I read him his favorite psalm, then I kind of sang a song to him, and I think it's Vince Gill, Go Rest High, if any of you guys know that song. Go Rest High on the Mountain. There's part in there where it says, "'Cause son, your work on earth is done," and I just changed it and I said, "'Cause dad, your work on earth is done." And I'm not the best singer, so I feel sorry for my dad having to listen to me sing. If you haven't heard that song, I recommend you look it up. I thought about playing it here. I'd have to figure out how to do it, and I don't care if I would have got the copyright strike or not. You know, if I could figure out how to do it, I maybe I'll do it at some point here. But it's a beautiful song, and I sang that, and I just looked back at him again. I held his hand while I was doing it, and the room was dark, and I start to leave, and I look back, and I tell my dad, I say, "I love you." And at this point, my dad hadn't spoke for about 4 or 5 days, and so I tell him I love you, and I turn around to leave, and I swear up and down, I heard him say I love you back. Maybe he mumbled something, maybe either way, it was clear as day that he said I love you. So I leave, and I go home, and MySpace was huge at the time. So I go on MySpace, and I just type on there, "Now we lay you down to sleep, we pray the Lord your soul to keep, and if you die before you wake, we ask the Lord your soul to take." I hit enter. As soon as I hit enter, my sister calls me up. "You need to get back. Dad passed away." So I get back in the car and I start driving, and as I'm driving, it starts snowing. And it's March, we all know, today, and in the US right now, like, I look outside and it's a nice 50-degree weather day. Some clouds, it's brown outside, no snow on the ground. But we all know the Midwest could be weird as far as the weather, but it was snowy that year, and as I'm driving back, it was just a real light snow, and it just seemed like there was kind of a glow about the snow too. It was very weird. It hadn't snowed all day. I don't think it was predicted to snow, and going back, there was just that little bit that was going on, and so I get there, and at that point, it's just me and my sister and her husband and the 2 kids, and go in and see Dad, and of course he's passed on. And shortly after, my mom, her boyfriend, and then my uncle from California show up, and we're kind of all there, just sad. But what I find the beauty with the day is we couldn't get anyone to read him his last rites for a couple days. We finally get a priest there. He gets his last rites read. My dad wanted to pass away alone. He didn't want other people there. He gets his last rites read. My aunt and uncle from out of town, who had been there for 3-4 days, decide to go back to their place. For whatever reason that day, my mom and her boyfriend and my uncle from California decide to go out to the casino. So now they're gone. So basically the only ones left in the house are me and the people who are supposed to be in the house. So everyone's gone. And what I found out later is my mom would have came back with my uncle sooner, because he was kind of like, "Well, I think I'm ready to go." And she goes, "Yeah, you think so?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've won some money, but I've got like $20 left. We can go if you guys want to go." And my mom's told him, like, "We don't have to go if you want to. If you want to gamble that $20, we can be here as long as you want." And so he gambled his last $20 and he ended up winning, I think like $300-400. He won some money. So they would have been back sooner, but had he not waited, or had he not finished gambling that off, they would have been back sooner or something like that. And then the fact that he won money, so it was just weird. But so basically, my dad got his last rites read. Everyone was out of the house. I got to speak with him, and then I left, and he passed. And so it was like, to me, things just played out too perfectly. It just all happened too well. And it's weird to say that there could be a perfect day from someone's passing, but it was, and that's what brings me comfort. And so that's basically kind of what I wrote. And I hope you guys don't mind if I read this. I gotta figure out which one it is. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to put my glasses on too, because getting old is great. I can't remember what I titled this. Let's see. I titled this one, "You Are Whole Once Again." And it's to kind of talk about the last day, and this is why I kind of wanted to tell you guys the story about the last day, because maybe some of this will make sense as I read it now. So it goes, "We said our goodbyes and said our I love yous. Your eyes barely open, you shoot me a glance and smile. You are contented with your work and ready to be whole once again. We won't see each other, yet we are at peace and feel overly joyous at this moment. What a perfect day. Sadness and sorrow is all around us, but what a perfect day. You watch me fade off into the dark. I hear one more sound come from your mouth. The air is cold. It's dark out, but the clouds shine somehow. You see me rest. You call me back, this time through spirit. My heart drops. It's cold out. It's dark out, but the clouds shine somehow. Angels are falling this time while I drive. I smile slowly. There you are when I arrive, just as I left you. Slightly colder, slightly whiter. No sounds come from you. You are whole though. You are more alive than you were when I left. Alive in spirit. Stronger than you ever were physically. You still have that slight grin you flashed my way as I faded away. I cry. I am happy. What a perfect day. I hurt. I cry. I hold you. Still, what a perfect day. The angels fall in greater numbers from the clouds now. I am now you. I'm not ready. You are whole again. Now you are able to guide me again. You aren't here though. Why don't you move? You can't be here, but gone for real now. Hold me, Dad. No. I hold you now. Grin is still there. Is it a joke? No. You are happy. You just can't move or say it. You are colder now, more peaceful now. You are whole once again. So many people are sad. I hear cries for you to be here. Why are you colder? What a perfect day. Why though? Why is it perfect? My heart drops again. I cry harder. I can't hear you say something. Wait. You are. My ears don't hear you. I hear you loud and clear though. What a sad, perfect day. You got all you wanted in a day. We got what we wanted, but lost who we wanted. You are whole once again. How far have you ran already? You haven't moved, but how far have you ran? Look at all those faces looking at you, crying, tears, joy and sadness and joy. You are here, but you are where you belong. I don't get it. How can you be both? I won't see you again soon. What a perfect day. How can I say that? I know. It's perfect because our wishes and your wishes came true. But why the pain? Why the tears? It worked out all so perfect. It's perfect because you are whole again. Because our happiness for you overrides pain. The angels no longer fall. You are gone. You are whole again. What a perfect day. So that's what I wrote, quite literally, after I left my sister's, once he passed and we spent our time there. Once I left, I got home and I wrote that. As you could probably tell, I worded the snowflakes as angels because as I was driving, that's what it felt like. It felt like the angels were coming down to take him. And asking like, how far have you ran? Because the thing that we joked about is like you guys, for those of you who were here earlier in the stream, my dad was an avid runner, running marathons all the time, running, constant running, and him not being able to run those last few months of his life was also just another downer. And so it was one of the things we thought of, like, is, he probably passed on, and if he goes to an afterworld, the first thing he probably did was start running. So that's some of it, and we clearly didn't want to lose him, but we didn't want to see him in pain and suffer anymore. So that's why, again, we got what we wanted by him passing away and not being in pain. There were some moments afterwards, that like I said, that day kind of for me started to solidify some of my spiritual connection or my spiritual thoughts with just how it felt like everything played out way too perfectly. Maybe it is all coincidence. Maybe it's not. For me, I like to think that it's not just coincident that many things could fall into place like that. There was a point in the summertime where I started to think about him, and like I've told most of you, I worked at the airport, the international airport out here, and I was an airline refueler, and so I was in one of the airlines place try to get to the fuel order to fuel up one of the bigger jet planes for American Airlines, and my dad came across my mind, and I just started thinking about him, and I just wanted to be like, I want to know you're okay. I hope you're okay. I hope you're proud of me. And the weird thing is I never listened to my iPod while I was at work. I just didn't. And for whatever reason that day I decided I wanted to listen to my iPod. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose quick. I'm gonna quick mute as I blow my nose so you guys don't have to hear this. All right, better. But yeah, so for whatever reason, I decided to listen to my iPod. I had my headphones on, and then I usually wore earplugs because I don't like earmuffs. To me, they don't do squat. I'd rather have plugs. But again, for whatever reason, I decided to listen to my iPod, so I had the earmuffs on, and like I said, just thinking of my dad, and just, are you okay? The song by Vince Gill, "Go Rest High on That Mountain," started playing on my iPod. The song that I sung him the last day he was alive before I left. So I'm thinking about my dad, wanting to know if he's okay. Never listened to my iPod at work. that song comes on. I walk outside and I start walking toward the airplane that I'm going to be fueling. And the F-16 Thunderbirds, the United States Air Force's, airplane show force, whatever, starts taking off on the runway right out in front of me. Yeah, this was something I forgot to mention during my whole talk. My dad is the one who got me huge into aviation. He pushed for aviation with me hardcore. And how it all started was he took me to an Air Force base to watch the F-16 Thunderbirds do a performance. And watching that, I instantly fell in love with the F-16. I wanted to be an F-16 pilot. I wanted nothing more than to become a Thunderbird at some point in my life. And unfortunately, like I joined Civil Air Patrol, which was an Air Force auxiliary for kids and stuff like that, and I started kind of flying through there a little bit, and he was pushing a lot of this, and I would have went to the Air Force Academy, but my eyesight just wasn't quite good enough, and I did not want to risk going to the Air Force Academy and not be able to fly a fighter airplane. So I went to college. Instead, I went to University of North Dakota, which is one of the best colleges out there for commercial aviation. And unfortunately, 9/11 happened the year that I would have started flying, and so I didn't complete it. I did after my dad passed, with money that was inherited. I got my private pilot's license to honor him. But so he got me huge into aviation. It's why I love flying. It's why I love skydiving. Anything aviation related, I love it because of him. And so again, hearing the song on my iPod that I never listened to, walking outside, and right at that moment having those F-16 Thunderbirds line up on the runway and taking off. Again, maybe it's coincidence. I don't like to think that it is. I like to think that it's something more. That my dad crossed my mind. That song happens to come on, and those fighter planes just happen to be taking off at that moment to go do an air show. There's other things, other random things. I told you guys about how car trips, him farting in the car, and us being like, "Ew, Dad, what? I didn't do anything," whatever. And I inherited his car, and there's times where I'd be driving on the road, and I could swear up and down that I could smell one of his farts in the car, and his farts were a very distinct smell. I thank God I did not inherit his fart smell, but they were very distinct. And I used to always say, I know my dad's around because he farted in the car while I'm driving, and that would be his humor to, rather than do something else, he would fart, and that's the way he would let us know he was around. It's weird to think that it's been 15 years ago. I didn't think that today would be as hard as it was, because so much time has passed. I guess maybe again renewing and rethinking about all that. And every year I used to do something and post something, something short and stupid on Facebook, just to remember him. And maybe it's hit me harder because this is a little bit more where I'm sharing more of who my dad is to people that never got to meet him. I wish I would have had his eulogy somewhere, because I wrote and read his eulogy. I know I have audio of it somewhere. I know it's on probably an old hard drive from my old desktop build that I had that I just need to put into my new system to see if I can't find it. And I don't think his eulogy is in my little book of writings here. I'm almost positive it's not, but it doesn't matter anyways. Yeah, it's not in here. But yeah, I did. I thank you guys for coming around and sticking with me and listening to the stories. It means a lot to me. I know he wasn't a part of your life, but it's so nice that I get to share it out, and maybe some of my quirks or some of my randomness, maybe you'll understand because of my dad. He had very, very unique humor. He loved singing. Like, I love oldies, and some of it is because of him. And so, like, if you know Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, you know, they're the ones who sing like In the Jungle, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, Walk Like a Man. They always sing those really high note cheesy parts, and he used to always do that, and because of him I'm always doing that. Like, when Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons come on, I go crazy. I love that group, and it's because of him. He loved to do the twist, and if any of you like, I mean, he did a Revenge of the Nerds skit one time where he was the perfect nerd. He really was. And so he did that. Like, if you guys have ever seen the Red Green show, there's the nephew on the Red Green show with the glasses who's when he laughs. That would be my dad. That'd be him. So I definitely think I have a lot of his humor and a lot of his just randomness with certain things. I used to never think that him and I looked alike, because I was so much taller and everything. But when he was going through his cancer, one of the things I decided to do to support him was to completely shave everything on my head, shave my eyebrows, shave my face, shave my head, everything. All the hair was gone to support him. When I did this, that's when I saw how much him and I were alike. Now I'll show that picture quick. My audio is gonna go out. I didn't connect the microphone to this scene in OBS yet, but here's the picture of my dad and I. And I look at that picture and I just like that. That to me just 100% shows that we look alike. You know, once I cut the hair, the ears, the nose, all that stuff, I think it looks very much similar. So with that said, the other thing I did is I made a video that I posted on YouTube long time back, right after he passed away. This was before I knew anything about video editing. This was back. Most of the photos I had were paper photos. You know, they're not digital photos. So I had to scan them all in on a scanner, and I am not a software person. I do hardware. I know hardware left and right. So I created a video in memory of him, and that's what I'm going to end with today. Is the video that I made for him. It's a terrible video. The picture quality is horrible because of how I scanned them in, and again, because of not knowing much on video editing or anything like that. So it's bad. It's just bad quality. So be prepared. As far as the pictures, the song that is in there, it's a religious song, but it was what was sung at his funeral. I gave the eulogy, and after I give the eulogy, some people that my dad knew sang the song that's going to be featured in this video. Now it's not those people singing it in this video, it's the actual person's song. And again, I don't care if it get copyright struck for it. It kind of just goes through a little bit of growing up. Toward the end, there's a picture of just my niece and nephew, just to kind of show, like, you know, how young they were and who he left behind. There's a photo of us dancing at his funeral. It's me and my sister doing the twist. Because like I said, he liked to do the twist. So there's a photo in there. And it ends off with the last photo is just the photo that I like to remember my dad the most as, because it's when I think of my dad, that's exactly what I see, is that very last photo. So I'm going to end it here today. I'm going to play that video, and once that video is done, I'm going to end the stream. So thank you guys again very much for being here today with me. Catnip, I saw you join in. Tiny Captain, Crafty, Micro, Tony Regime, Tusk, I believe, was here. Mute. Who am I missing? Surf was here. King Crew, Mark Short, Kevin, Nickel, basically anyone who came. If you guys are still here or not, I you know, either way, thanks for stopping in. Catnip, feel free to hit me up at any point if you're on Discord. You know, if you need to. It's not fun. It sucks a lot. But thanks again, guys, for coming by. And love and light to you all. It's a phrase I like to use. Whether you're a spiritual being or not, love and light to you all. Stay safe out there. Thank you guys for being awesome in this community. Thank you for anyone who might be on Facebook who watches this. Thank you to anyone who comes later to watch this. Love you all. And here is the video.
Weak and wounded sinner, lost and left to die. Oh, raise your head, for love is passing by. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus and live. Now your burden's lifted and carried far away, and precious blood has washed away the stain. So sing to Jesus, sing to Jesus, sing to Jesus and live. And like a newborn baby, don't be afraid to crawl. And remember, when you walk, sometimes we fall. So fall on Jesus, fall on Jesus, fall on Jesus and live. Sometimes the way is lonely and steep and filled with pain. So if your sky is dark and pours the rain, then cry to Jesus, cry to Jesus, cry to Jesus and live. Oh, and when the love spills over and music fills the night, and when you can't contain your joy inside, then dance for Jesus, dance for Jesus, with your final heartbeat, kiss the world goodbye. Then go in peace and laugh on glory's side, and fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, and live. Fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus.